gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for June 30th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, it's been 7,771 days since the last F-Zero game. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussain, everybody, from Giant Bomb and GameSpot. How's it going, Tam?
I think it's going well. I feel like it's been 7,771 days since I've had COVID, but still have this cough.
I literally, I've talked about this with you before. I've had the coughs for months, and it feels like, well, this is it. This is the rest of my life. It's the worst.
You still have the cough?
No, I got to a point where.
You got to a point where it was fine.
Yes, I had the cough for months. I thought it was going to be like, okay, I fucked my esophagus or something. This is just it. And then I took some antibiotics, and that cleared it up somehow. I don't know.
Damn.
And I don't know if it's related.
I hit up my doctor, and I was like, "Am I dying?" And he was like, "Nah, you're probably going to have that cough for a while."
That's what they say. Yeah. That's like whenever I would bring it up, they'd be like, "Hey, yeah, that sounds bad." I'm like, "Okay, can we do anything?" No. And then I got antibiotics for unrelated things, and then it went away. Maybe it was just maybe it was coincidence. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, how are you doing otherwise? Like, I mean,
otherwise I'm doing good.
Annoying, but yeah, I'm glad.
Otherwise I'm doing well. A lot of stuff going on over at the Giant Bomb. A lot of stuff going on over at GameSpot. Not a lot of stuff going on in the industry as a whole right now. No. You know what? I got a PS5.
Oh, you did? Oh, so okay. Did you? Was it the PlayStation Direct or what? Where'd you get it from? Like, tell me the story of picking this up.
Firstly, I'm very incredibly privileged. I already have a PS5.
Sure.
My goal was to be a 2 PS5 household.
Right.
So
American Dream. I believe that's called.
Yeah,
American Dream.
So exactly. So I've got a PS5 in my living room, which I play my games on. I was like, I want a stream setup that also includes a PS5 because I have one that includes an Xbox Series S. So I was like, I need that. So I went and I like asked a few people if they had it. Didn't have it. I had the kind of funny crew being like, we'll keep an eye out as well. And then I saw a link that was like queue up for the direct buy it from PlayStation. So I was like, I'll do that. And then I clicked it and it was like, you have a hour-long wait. And then I looked away and I looked again and it was like, you are ready to purchase.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, sick.
I did the same thing. Mine said you have a 30-minute wait. And I looked away, and I never looked back. And I honestly, this tab could be somewhere on this computer still. I have no idea.
I've got like really weirdly good luck with stuff that's like queue-based. Like,
right.
I remember when Harry Potter and the Cursed Child came out, and everyone in the office was trying to get tickets at that time. And I was like, I've got no interest in looking going to this. I'm just gonna go to the queue thing and see what happens. And I like went into queue, and it did the same thing where I was like 1 minute I was at the number 10,000 and the other I was like number 2 and I was like cool. I got Hamilton tickets that were like front and center.
What the hell?
I've got like whenever I get live performance, usually like I get tickets very easily. I've got like good luck when it comes to buying stuff online and queuing.
I won't say I have bad luck. I definitely don't have luck like that. Definitely not. Although I don't know. Okay, so you got the second PlayStation 5. How long do you think it stays in that box before you set it up?
I was planning to set it up today, honestly, because it's an easy swap out. Yeah. And just to be clear, I've not seen Cursed Child, so I don't know what's going on in that.
Yeah, so no spoilers is what Tam is saying.
Yeah, well, I don't care about Harry Potter anymore.
I don't care about spoilers either. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I was like, I had my time with Harry Potter, then
Same.
J.K. Rowling revealed herself to be an absolute top 10 wrong, and I was like, I think I'm done with this franchise. Bye.
Same. I think my understanding of Cursed Child is like she did that because she wanted to explain to fans why they were mad for her killing Cedric Diggory. And so she's like, well, if he lived, things would have been worse. He would have been like Hitler. I could be making most of this stuff up, but that's my understanding of why she did that.
Wild.
That's always a really good reason to write a story. To be like, well, here's why the fans are wrong about the thing I wrote. And that seems to be her motivation for most things.
I also like in going back to like, there was a while back where I went back to some of the Harry Potter books to read. I'm like, these are actually not that good. I don't know what was wrong with us, but like we were like really into the idea. Like it just showed that if you can create a good world to escape into,
Yes.
that kind of like papers over all the bad dialogue.
Yes, it has like good characterization, and that's about as far as I go with it. Everything
Yeah.
else is kind of real weak. You know,
What I
whatever.
did
If you
like
Harry
about
Potter,
like
whatever. That's fine. I
yeah,
don't care. I just don't like
I mean
J.K. Rowling.
like yeah, I don't like J.K. Rowling. For various reasons beyond her being like an absolute turf.
Yes.
I do love Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory as well. There's that whole story where he was like, no, he was like, why does Cedric Diggory holds his wand like it's a gun? Like it's really funny. And he was like, that's a little affectation I put on because, and he like, you can see the interview. He's like, just holding wands is lame. I was like, yeah, he gets it. So like, if you watch that movie where he's in it, he holds his wand like it's a gun. It's like really funny.
It's pretty wild that coming out of all of that, the thing that I'm the biggest fan of, like all the Harry Potter stuff, is probably Robert Pattinson at this point. I'm like, this guy just seems pretty cool and chill.
Yeah, he's
I like
fun.
him quite a lot.
Fun. Yeah.
All right. Before we get into the mess, let's talk about this show and what we do here each weekday. Jeff Grubb will help you piece your gaming life back together. That includes with breaking news, the catch-up, where we talk about the biggest stories of the day, and maybe even I thought I just broke something by hitting the spacebar accidentally, and maybe even bring you some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will join to make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. We really appreciate that. You could always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. If you are watching on there, please be sure to hit that like button. It helps people find the show. Okay, we got a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess. Let's start here with Nintendo says it has increased security after the Gigaleak. This comes from Darren Bontheus. After several of its classic game prototypes and assets were leaked back in 2020, Nintendo has finally acknowledged the event and has increased its security. As transcribed by Twitter user InStyles via VGC, Nintendo was asked during its annual shareholder meeting in Kyoto, Japan, what its stance was on iQue, the Chinese brand that was created to release Nintendo content and was included in the big leak. The PC and mobile games market in China is large, but dedicated games consoles are not so large. Nintendo President Shunitaro Furukawa said, together with Tencent, we want to continue to popularize them. We are working with experts on information leaks as well. We have also introduced information security management. So, he was like talking about a couple of topics there, but overall, they said that they are looking at ways to improve their security. And this is something that, you would think Nintendo, a very secretive company, would have always taken seriously, but it's also not part of traditional Japanese corporate culture to be thinking about like online information security. Like they don't have they're not big into IT and stuff like that. They don't know what the cloud is or didn't for a very long time until the pandemic. Like if you go to ask an executive at a Japanese company, like, what's your guys' stance on the cloud? Most of them be like, we don't have a stance on that at all. But
we love rain.
Yes, we love rain. So, I mean, it's something here. I do wonder, again, if this is maybe also just something they're telling investors, like, yeah, don't worry about leaks. We'll stop this from happening in the future. And really, can any company fully promise that? Probably not, right?
No, probably not. No one can truly stop leaks. And I feel like Nintendo, especially with its kind of like ineptitude around online infrastructure and kind of like data handling is probably perhaps in the least, like in the worst position to be making this kind of claim. If anything, it like just puts a target on their back and it's kind of like hackers inviting hackers to bully the weakest kid at the party. It's just like, no. I'm not surprised that this happened. Like I love Nintendo, like a lot of people. I grew up playing a lot of Nintendo games. Nintendo is a key part of like gaming kind of identity for me. I think that like they are absolutely atrocious when it comes to online stuff for like the basics. More importantly, I think they're absolutely atrocious at giving their own lineage the respect it deserves. I mean, like, there's a lot of companies that aren't very good at it, but like Nintendo especially, like, for the stuff that they have released, like their preservation's not great. The kind of like ability to bring that forward and, present it to new generations in a way that's, beneficial to themselves and gaming as a whole is not great. And like having their stuff kind of that makes them a good target for like people who want to take action in and around that. Like, I know it's not a good excuse, but like, I'm not surprised if they. I wouldn't be surprised if a few years down the line someone's like, I hacked Nintendo and I downloaded all their shit because I wanted someone to have a good hard copy of all these old Ocarina of Time, prototypes, because we don't believe Nintendo is going to do it.
Right.
But I would not be surprised if that happens. I don't condone it at all, but um, yeah, no surprise at all that this has
you see the
happened.
motivation, right? I agree. I see the motivation of people who are like, I want to. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's the specific motivation of the people responsible for the Gigaleak, but it does seem to be the result of what has happened here, where we got a lot of information that feels very likely could have fallen through the cracks of time and we never would have saw again. A big thing for me is like I really want to see what did Breath of the Wild look like before the big reboot it got and like turned into this open world game that they ended up releasing. What game were they working on beforehand? I'm like, oh, I would love to see that. I don't know if we're ever going to see anything about that. I don't necessarily feel like I should have the right to just go play it and have them give me a prototype, ISO of the thing that I could play on an emulator, but at least like put it in some sort of video format. Let's have a look at it, at least talk about it. Put out documentaries based on your game, whatever. I don't care. But let me have some insight to those things. And when you don't, after decades, for many of these things, it ends up feeling like, okay, there's got to be someone who can find out. With the Gigaleak, we found out a ton of stuff about the way Nintendo's operated, and it's been at least very interesting, even if the Gigaleak specifically is something that was an illegal hacking attempt. This stuff comes from some other stuff that they did. They had a shareholder meeting and they answered a lot of questions. Some of the things they've talked about are slowly dripping out. We're getting some other things. For example, a shareholder asked for a new F-Zero in Nintendo's latest annual meeting. This is by Chris Scullion at VGC. A Nintendo shareholder reportedly asked Nintendo to release a new F-Zero game during its annual general meeting on Tuesday. And this is another one from InStyles, who is transcribing and translating this meeting. During the Q&A portion of the meeting, one shareholder asked if the company had any plans for new titles or remakes related to past IPs. They then specifically mentioned games by name they'd like to see, including F-Zero, Baten Kaitos, Wario Land, The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls, Trade in Battle, Card Hero, and Shozuchu Mecha MG. Those last three I don't know, and I'm immediately want to go find The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls. I've never heard of that. So but Nintendo didn't exactly come out and be like, yeah, well, here's which one of those games we're going to follow up with. Nintendo president basically said it's realistically they cannot create sequels to every series that fans request. Here Nintendo president said the following. Let's see here. It is realistically difficult to develop new titles and remakes, including sequels, for every Nintendo game that people request. But we are very grateful and appreciate the expectations our fans have for our games. It's basically like, yeah, we hear you, but shut up, you nerds.
Yeah.
They don't talk about stuff that they're not going to talk about, right? And so when they get asked about games like this, it's not surprising that they don't have an answer. But does this give you any sway one way or the other about the future of something like an F-Zero?
Personally, I love that this shareholder is an absolute top 10 nerd about all this shit. Like, yes. It's one of those things where every now and then you get a reminder that shareholders don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just like, the shareholders are just nerds with money. Mm-hmm. Some nerds with money are really into the thing that they have money in, and this nerd is clearly like, what would be good? If I had a new Wario game, Mr. Nintendo, can I have a Wario?
And then Nintendo's like, we got Wario at home.
We got Wario at home. We got stuff to do. We got a Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 to make. Now be quiet. And the kids are like, okay, thank you, Mr. Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's wild. But I can, again, this stems from, this is also kind of like, as well as being a massive nerd, this is also a symptom of being a response to the way Nintendo operates, right? Like, it doesn't, it tells you nothing. It gives you little to go on. Like, we don't know where, as a shareholder, I would be pretty annoyed that I don't know what's going on with Breath of the Wild 2. I'd be like, what the fuck's going on? Also, we don't know what's next for Nintendo. Like, they have no forward, they're not really clear about forward-thinking kind of plans. Like, we know in most cases what Xbox has coming down the pipeline. To a degree, we know what's happening with PlayStation. They've got God of War, they've got VR titles in production, so there's stuff to think about. What is Nintendo doing outside of Breath of the Wild 2?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's
Who knows?
right. They for like their first party EPD teams, it's like hard to pin down what each team is doing. Like the Mario Kart team, obviously they're putting out DLC, but that's not the only thing they're working on. What else are they doing?
Yeah.
We have no idea, and it's pretty similar when you go up and down the board. In some cases, it's like obviously it's the third party team that works with a lot of partners, and they bring them in. They're working on Bayonetta 3 and a bunch of other stuff they need to get out.
Yeah.
But there's like 11 teams, not counting the mobile team or whatever. So yeah, like kind of feels like we should be getting some info about what is coming down the line. And I bet, you know, even if the answer is we will talk about this stuff once we know what we're doing exactly with the follow-up hardware to the Switch, but they're not even saying that exactly. It just is silence. And so,
yeah. And like when you the more you learn about Nintendo, the more it becomes obvious that they're in the game of not telling you the stuff. Like,
right.
You know, we know that like the Prime stuff has been in development for literally ages, and they've just been kind of like, we'll figure out a good time for this, and you know, we won't tell anyone that it's happening, and people are just like, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Like, and I feel like Nintendo has been allowed to operate in its own way, in its own kind of little bubble, and be fine with it, because no one else does stuff like them. I do wonder how long they can continue doing that for. And this is almost like the Nintendo cycle where everyone wonders this every generation.
Yes.
And they continue to just carry on doing it exactly how they want. But like they have now, like it's hard to say whether this will have any sort of major impact, but like the Steam Deck exists now, and that's taken a lot of like the wind out of their sail. Like all the stuff that they showed off at the Direct, or the majority of it, I was like, I could play this on Steam Deck now.
Yeah.
Like right now. Like, why would I? What am I doing here?
You know, and that could be like it's a problem in the long term. Obviously, not overnight. Everyone's going to have a Steam Deck, but it's the kind of thing that shows there is a world possible where the Switch is not necessarily this darling that lasts forever. There is a world where the Steam Deck could replace it for some people, not, you know, all 100 million people that own a Switch, but still, it's like it's something they need to reckon with.
And the important thing from that is like I would like to see them, the lesson they take away be like, we can't just rely on having indie titles portable as our USP. We now are competing with Steam Deck and other places like, you know, Backbone plus mobile. So that means we need to be better about communicating around our first party titles, which is what I hope they take away from it. Do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. And what's instead going to happen is there's going to be pure silence, and occasionally at a shareholder meeting, someone's going to go, "Can I have F-Zero, please?"
Yeah. and the thing is, with like, if they keep making more money, if their profitability is better, and while doing all that, they are not answering questions, they're going to be like, "Hey, listen, if we made you a bunch of money as investors, and so, you know, sure, we could answer you stuff, but we don't think that's the right way of doing things. And when we haven't answered in the past, we've continued to become more profitable. So if you want to stay invested, that's fine, but we're going to do things our way still." And, you know, if you don't like that, then, you know, go to the board of directors, try to change things, but you're probably going to have pretty poor luck with attempting that, because we've made more money than we're ever making before, and our things are selling better than they've ever sold before. Clearly, we know what we're doing. So when one side of the evidence is that, it's really hard to be like, you need to change the way you're doing things. But that doesn't mean that like they shouldn't always be considering better ways of communicating. You know, that said, he explicitly goes on here. He says, "Let's senior managing executive officer Shinya Takahashi also answered the question and gave an example of how in the past Nintendo has been asked for remakes that it secretly already had in development. We are always considering how to develop new titles and remakes that can be enjoyed by many players," he said. During the 79th Ordinary General Meeting of Shareholders in 2019, we were asked if there were any plans to remake Famicom Detective Club series, and at the time, we happened to be planning a remake. That is an example where we were already actively developing such a title. We cannot tell you if there are any plans for future remakes of any specific game, but during development, we are always thinking about various possibilities that players can enjoy. This almost feels like a wink, like something over there, something that we're talking about is in the works. Like, who knows? Wink.
I would have loved if he went like, "But for you, Mr. Shareholder, there's absolutely zero chance that we will be remaking Baten Kaitos. It's not happening.
Get fucked, Baten Kaitos specifically."
I mean, like, this is another case of them being like, we know things, we have secrets, and like we're not going to tell you, which is just, it just pisses people off. Like, I don't know why people like I mean, I know exactly why people are like this, but like with Nintendo, I feel like you just have to accept what they've currently got and try not to get too excited about the future. That's always been the way, right? I remember owning a GameCube and being like, I've got these games. I hope there sure are some more games in the future. Maybe. Like you have to just like make do. There's that 1-2 Switch sequel that's probably
Yep.
gonna come out at some point. But for now, it's just like when you buy a Nintendo console, you basically are buying it for one game at a time. Like you have to be
Yeah.
like I bought a Switch and my buying of the Switch, when I did that, I made a contract with Nintendo and myself that if I only play Breath of the Wild on it, I'll be satisfied. When they announce a new game, that's when you're like, okay, this is adding to my value. Maybe I'll get Mario Kart. And then you play that and you're like, okay, now if they never release another game, I'll be fine. But then they announce Bayonetta, you're like, okay, cool. So it's like game by game by game. So once Breath of the Wild 2 and Bayonetta 3 come out, I'm going to be like, I guess the Switch is dead. And if they announce another game, great. If they don't,
it's been
I'll
that
move
way
on.
since the Nintendo 64 as well. Like, and like in terms of like Nintendo 64 and GameCube, I mean, GameCube had decent third-party support, but like all through there, like you were doing that same thing that you're talking about, waiting for the next Nintendo game. The Switch is even a little bit better than all of those because at least like it's a really good indie system, and there's more indie games than ever that are worth showing up for. I mean, I played Hades on there, like and Dead Cells for 100 hours and hurt my hands. So it's like at least it has that going for it in a way that past Nintendo consoles have not. But yes, overall, the most part, to justify the cost of the system when you're purchasing it and to make it make sense as like this is the thing I'm going to keep in my rotation, you mostly are waiting for that next Nintendo game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. God of War Ragnarok dev to fans who want updates says, please be patient. This is by Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. God of War Ragnarok fans are eagerly awaiting news about the highly anticipated sequel, and now producer Cory Barlog has asked fans to please be patient. Writing on Twitter, Barlog said the decision on when to show or discuss more of Ragnarok is not up to him. If it were up to me, I would share all the information when I know about it, but it is not up to me, he said. So please be patient. I promise things will be shared at the earliest possible moment when they can be. He added, we make games for you. We get to make games because of you. This comes in the wake of a lot of rumors from Jason Schreier and the Snitch on Twitter and Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg that have implied that we should hear something about this game by the end of this month. That has recently begun to look a little bit more shaky. Let's see. Someone on Twitter, let's see, Jason Schreier, I think, actually went on to say it sounds like that has been moved, or at least he thinks it's been moved, although the game does not seem like it's been delayed yet. I think I had a little bit more about God of War here somewhere. Did I put it at the end here? No, okay. Basically, what's happening here is that we think that there's going to be an event today. It doesn't seem like there's going to be an event. Maybe they just talk about the game on Twitter. They put up a blog post. Could be a YouTube video. But even that seems like it could get moved around. Where are you at with this game? The concerns are, hey, it's going to get delayed. When he was asked about this specifically, Cory Barlog said, no, it's not getting delayed. That's why we're not, like people say, just say it's going to get delayed so we know. And he's like, it's not going to get delayed. So are you still confident about that?
I think I think that it's, from everything I've heard, I think that it's like people just keep saying it's not getting delayed. And
Right.
like I'm inclined to believe, sure, like if they're that confident and they have like someone like Corey coming up front and center and saying, "Hey, it's not getting delayed." Like what can we do other than take them for our face value? Like that feels like if they were trying to do that thing where they're like, let's just tell everyone it's not delayed until we delay it. Like that seems like a foolish move, and it's
Yes.
even more foolish to allow someone like Cory Barlog to be out there just being like, it's not getting delayed, it's not getting delayed,
Right.
knowing that it will get delayed. You know what? Here's the thing. Firstly, sometimes the people working on the game don't know whether it's going to be delayed.
Sure, right. I mean,
Like
that's
just how it goes down.
It's not his decision to make, right? Like,
It's not his decision to make. I think what I want to say about this is gamers are so unhinged about stuff, and this is one of those things where I'm like, can you all please calm down? Like what Corey has done here, God bless him, is like he's in the politest way just been like, please, it's fine. We're making games are hard. We're doing our best. I do not have the patience no longer because I went into the to the replies.
Yes.
And there's people like Mr. Barlog. I have been looking at screenshots of this God of War game for 6 months, and I feel that it's pretty unfair that you would not reveal information to me, man who has been looking at screenshots. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why? Just because
have you seen your family? Does anyone know that you're alive? Or are you loved?
Yeah. Just because you're excited about something does not make you entitled to all information about it. Like the entitlement that I see online about like things that like I'm like, when Elden Ring was like nowhere to be seen, you know, I was goofing off on Twitter being like, where is Elden Ring?
Sure.
I never at any point would at like From Software and be like, where is Elden Ring information? At most for banter, I added Jeff Killian. I was like, what up, Jeff? What's going on?
Of course.
Can you sort this out?
He deserves it.
But like, I think gamers, just because you have money and just because you're excited about something does not entitle you to all the information about it.
I'm a paying customer. I paid $60. You spent listen, you spent 5 years of your life.
You're nobody.
Yes.
You might have $60. Guess how many other motherfuckers have got $60 out there, mate?
So many people have $60. Like,
shut up. Yeah, every time, like when I see people being like, Sony Santa Monica, we need to know now where this thing is, I just feel like intensely embarrassed for like gaming and gamers. I'm just like,
I have to assume they're kids. I have to assume, but they're not. Many times they are grown men in many cases.
It's just like
showing their whole asses online.
Firstly, like I think the game will come out when it will come out. Like I am not one of those people who hangs around the kitchen and tells whoever's cooking my food to hurry up, because ultimately they're cooking food for me, and I will eventually get something, and I'll hope that it's good for me.
Even if I pay for it, like even if I'm in a restaurant, like I'm like, that's how I feel, because again, it's like they've spent all day working. They did all the work to get all this food in this one place. It's like so much more labor than like the amount of money I'm paying for this one meal. That's what makes it make sense for them, is that there's a lot of people coming in, and I'm one of many customers. And if they lose one, it's not the end of the world. And it's a fraction of the importance that they need to put into their job is me coming in and being served perfectly every time and getting exactly what I want.
I think trying to put it in a productive way, when you're out there demanding information and demanding like stuff like this better not get delayed or this and that, try and think of the knock-on effect of that. Because to you, all you're saying is, I want this thing I'm excited about. On the other side of that, that can translate into many, many different things. That could translate into an executive looking at those kind of tweets and going, these people are going wild about this. We need to make all of our people work extra hard, extra long to make sure that we hit these times. You could be making the people's lives who are actually making this game worse, and by doing that, probably making the game a bit worse. Like, just when you're out there demanding things, popping off for no reason, not having an understanding of how games are made or the impact of what, you know, demanding things constantly. Like, you could also be like really screwing with people who are trying to do like this release date stuff, who are like, we're trying our best to get this right, but everyone on the internet is just constantly screaming about wanting to see, like, instead of doing a full, cool video, let's just do a blog post. You know, it's fine to like ask like questions like, you know, when is this coming out? Is it, you know, are we going to get a PlayStation Direct, whatever? That's cool. But when you're out here being like, Mr. Barlog, I have tattooed God of War on my penis. I demand to see the release date. Like, just shut up, touch grass, just go away, man. Relax.
All that said, Cory Barlog is having a little bit of fun on Twitter with some people. He said, someone asked, why won't you all just go on and tell us that Ragnarok is delayed so that we can move on and plan the rest of the year? Seriously, this is getting frustrating. And then someone said, or then he said, because it's not, that's why we're not telling you. And then someone freaking out, it's like, then where the hell is it? Why are we waiting so long? And then this person's name was like Joe McRaddy or something like that. And he goes, it was Randy McRaddy. And Cory Barlog's just like, Randy, we are not McRaddy. And I'm like, okay.
I love Cory.
Cory's having a good time.
Cory's having, that's the best thing. Like, I'm glad that there are sometimes developers. I want to see developers just take control of the narrative in their own way. Like Cory Barlog just being like having fun with it is great. You see like Harada being like, don't ask me for shit. Like that's I love that kind of stuff. I would love it if every time some, you know, random weirdo on the internet is like, where is my video game? The developer replies, It's ready. I've got it right now.
Yes.
I'm not releasing it because you won't shut up.
Maybe if you were nice. I just want to, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to follow you for one. Maybe if you're nice on the internet, I might think about it. That is absolutely every developer should do.
Just have fun with it, developers, because ultimately, like, we know that, or most people, the smart or like reasonable people know that there's not one person who's like in charge. There's not a delay and not delay button that people are just like randomly smashing.
Yes, they're like throwing a dice, and it's like, oh, we didn't get 7, so we're not good. All right. All right. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope plays more like a Mario games by Steve Watts. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is the unlikely sequel to the unlikeliest of hits. The original Mario plus Rabbids game, Kingdom Battle, was a wild collaboration between Nintendo's most iconic characters and Ubisoft's screaming minion-like goofballs. Now, I'm going to take issue with this. The Rabbids came before the minions, so the minions are Rabbid-like goofballs. Let's be clear there. All mashed together with a healthy dose of XCOM. Most shocking of all was that it all worked together beautifully. For Sparks of Hope, Ubisoft is experimenting further with free movement more reminiscent of traditional Mario game, new playable characters like Bowser, and an emphasis on flexibility with its new Spark system. To me, it was a dream project, and it was almost unbelievable to have the opportunity to start working on a game with Mario and Rabbids, creative director David Soliani told GameSpot. I always respected, as a player and as a developer, Nintendo's IP, but it was very tense for me to go in front of them and to pitch our idea. And since then, we kept collaborating together because we did Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, but we also worked on Donkey Kong Adventure, which I think is the name of the expansion for it. Yes, the expansion. Then we started with Sparks of Hope. I will say that we are now collaborating with Nintendo for 8 years in a row. We never stopped collaborating with them, and this gives us confidence, strength, and knowledge of how to not just be respectful of their IP, but also to know more about the Mario universe, going deeper and deeper. But we also strengthen our relationship in terms of exchanging ideas. Some of the ideas, it sounds like, for this game is that they are going to like make it like a little bit more action oriented when you're between battles. It sounds like. I think one of the big things was, or like, Miyamoto's like, yeah, you could use this stuff, just like don't let Mario jump. You're gonna have to play as this little Roomba out in front, so you're not playing as a jumping character. Seems like they're like easing up on some of those rules. One of the big things here also is they're adding 2 new composers, Yoko Shimomura and
yes, legend,
yes, who has experience in the past with Mario role-playing games like Super Mario RPG and the Mario and Luigi series. Absolutely incredible. And then Gareth Coker, who has worked on the Ori games, and then they are both going to be working with Grant Kirkhope, who worked on the first game and obviously wrote the DK rap. So a true legend.
Yeah, like legends. Yoko Shimomura is a massive get. I mean, she has worked on a bunch of like Mario titles, but she's done like Street Fighter 2.
Yes, Street Fighter 2 is like those tracks are, yes. She also was like working on Streets of Rage 4, I remember, and that's when I really like looked back at her discography and be like, oh man, she basically made Street Fighter with those tracks. It's just so good. She's so incredible.
Gareth Coker as well, like the stuff that he's done on Ori is amazing.
The Mike Mika at GameSpeed adds a little bit more. The other striking thing, he's asking questions, so I'm going to read a little bit of this interview. The other striking thing is how each character has a unique weapon now. They don't just all have the arm cannons. Can you talk about that approach and how you paired each character up with their weapons, like how Luigi has a bow and arrow now? And this is one of the producers on the game. Each hero belongs to a specific archetype, and even if it's maybe not apparent. We don't declare it, but you mentioned Luigi. Luigi is a long-range fighter. He has, as you said, a bow. He's a sharpshooter. Each hero has their distinctive signature weapon. He deals more damage the farther he is from the enemy. As he gets closer, the damage will be less. He pairs the characteristics of the weapon with his signature technique. Every hero has their own signature technique. His is called the Steely Stare. And and this is where Mike interrupts to say, oh, like Mario Kart, that's great. And they're like, yeah. And Mario has the hero sight with Luigi, while Luigi has the Steely Stare. With that, if you choose to trigger that technique even outside his turn, whenever an enemy moves in his line of sight within the range and the area of effect of the ability, Luigi reacts. So it just like sounds like they are adding more uniqueness to each individual in the game, and that's actually very specifically what I think I needed to get excited about this game. The first one was a really well made XCOM with Mario and Rabbids, but it does feel a little bit like you are just plugging in those characters into a game that already existed.
Yeah.
This sounds more like they are thinking more deeply, like they said, about what this game could be. Are you at all excited? Are you an XCOM guy?
Yeah, I love XCOM games. I played the first Mario Rabbids as well, and I do feel like a lot of the personality that came from that game was kind of coming from the Rabbids side of it, whereas
that's right.
the Mario part of it was like we're using the Mario worlds as set dressing, and then the characters are kind of just like there and stuff is happening to them, and they just kind of put up with these annoying Rabbids constantly. I'm glad that they are leaning heavier into like properly characterizing and showing off the Mario characters, which is good. I genuinely forgot this game existed for a really long time.
Same.
Like I was talking about this the other day. Like I wonder if they like really missed the kind of the ideal timing for releasing one of these game sequels. Like it felt like the original Mario Rabbids had a lot of momentum in that. It was a really cool idea. People were surprised at how well it was executed. And then they were like, okay, let's see how they follow it up. I bet you the second one's going to be great. And then it just vanished for a really long time, to the point where I feel like a lot of the interest around it or the heat that it built has dissipated. So I do wonder if how this one's going to be received, and whether it's a case of might have been like you missed the opportunity to get a much broader audience, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be hard to like balance all that stuff. Maybe this would have been a situation where it would have been better to completely counter what we talked about earlier. Maybe just shut the fuck up about this one. Don't talk about it at all until it's like 3 months out, and then say this game's coming later this year. You're going to be playing it in 3 months, and then I think it would have been like, oh wow, okay, that's awesome. This is fantastic. I will show up for it. But having it announced like last year sometime, having to wait for it until this year. In between that time, I absolutely was beginning to forget about it. And there was times where I'm like, what does Nintendo like have coming to the Switch this year? And I would list a bunch of games, and I almost would never list this one. All that said, seeing it, having these interviews happen, having that gameplay trailer yesterday, all that stuff worked to help me get a little bit more like, okay, I do want to play this game. And now I'm ready. Like once it's out, I'm going to try it and see for myself. But if the reviews are good, I'll definitely be playing it as well.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yes. Let's see. The Steam Deck specs have changed and nobody noticed until now, but this is by Luke Plunkett at Kotaku. Anyone who bought one of Valve's Steam Decks at launch got a very particular model of solid-state drive installed in their device. Anyone buying one more recently has received a different drive, one that's potentially slower. As Hardware Lux reports via PC Gamer, all Steam Decks that originally shipped with either a 256 or 512 gigabyte SSD would have them connected via 4 lanes. Now, some units are shipping with drives that connect via just 2 lanes, a change that could, in theory, result in slower performance since you're essentially having the drive's bandwidth. This is, we don't know if this is the case. There hasn't been a lot of like side-by-side testing of this yet. And I always for me, whenever something like this happens, I'm like very hesitant to be like, go down the path of like, this one's worse. Everyone should panic. You should be looking at serial numbers to make sure you get the good one. Not like that hasn't happened in the past. I mean, I definitely remember looking at, Xbox 360 serial numbers to make sure I was getting the one that wasn't going to, blow up on me or whatever.
Yeah,
so that stuff does happen. But until we have some like empirical data to show that this is a problem and not just something that is going to get in our heads, I would just like tell most people probably don't worry about this. With hardware, like this happened with the PlayStation 5 recently, where they went from having the launch model PS5 to a few months later launching one that had significantly less like copper in it, and it was like a cooling assembly that was significantly smaller. And everyone's like, well, this is worse. It's going to run hotter, so the games are going to be worse. And the games run exactly the same.
Yeah,
the system's not that much. It's not really louder. It was fine. It was just, this panic about a change. I want to make sure that this is not the same thing. But I mean, even all that said, if you were to go buy a Steam Deck like tomorrow and you had the choice, I would get the one with 4 lanes, right?
Yeah, obviously, but again, like it's hard to tell which one's which, and also like the availability of Steam Decks is not very high right now, so it's probably a problem that is not going to impact you because you can't get one at this stage. Like you take what you get.
That's right.
And also, like these sacrifices are usually made. They're not made like just willy nilly. Like people are doing the research over there, and Valve has clearly shown that they care about how this thing works and how it feels, and if they. Excuse me.
No,
if they think that like 2 lanes is good enough, I imagine they do that knowing that it's not going to have a a significant impact on the kind of experience of playing games, right? Like it's not like they're going from like a standard PS5 to one that's just got like most of its hardware ripped out and is like a light version. It's just a tweak to some of the how the bandwidth is kind of pushed back and forth, and there might be sure some bottlenecks, but I doubt Valve is in the business of segregating their audience by creating a hardware revision that's noticeably different from the original.
I think that's exactly right. In most cases with SSDs, they are almost always failing to like saturate the lanes that they are already given. Two lanes versus four in most cases. It's just you're not going to ever really see it. And the only times you would see it are in the synthetic benchmarks that are made in ways to maximize that saturation. And that's in real world experience, it's not going to make any difference that anyone's really going to notice. And in the very small instances where it might, I would say it's probably not enough to like justify going out of your way to try to find one versus the other. This is the kind of thing where it's going to be more a thing that gets in your head and not an actual reality. I mean, the SD card, I run mini games off the SD card on my Steam Deck because I have the middle model, and so it's like I run out of space relatively quickly on the internal storage. And yes, like loading up the SD card is like super fast in a way that I'm like, man, what is wrong with the Switch? Then I'm like, oh yeah, the CPU's just like a fraction as powerful as here. So it's like having trouble just ripping the data off of the storage. But it's like, okay, if the SD card is this fast, obviously 2 lanes of the PCIe, whatever is that, PCIe 4 is going to be super fast. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to have a marginal to like almost unnoticeable impact on your gameplay experience, I imagine, unless something goes really wrong.
Fire Emblem Heroes is Nintendo's first mobile game to hit $1 billion in revenues by Darren Bontheus at GameSpot. Fire Emblem Heroes has become Nintendo's top grossing mobile title, as new data has shown that it has surpassed 1 billion in lifetime player spending globally across the App Store and Google Play. This is according to analyst firm Sensor Tower. The mobile RPG has generated more revenue in Q1 2022. The Fire Emblem Heroes subscription pass likely helped here. And then that's more than Nintendo's other mobile titles, Dr. Mario World and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. They already shut down Dr. Mario World, didn't they? It's also the first mobile game from Nintendo to reach that milestone. It's the closest internal competitor. Its closest internal competitor is Mario Kart Tour, which has had a lifetime mobile revenue of $282 million so far. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp takes number 3 with $281.6 million, so just behind Mario Kart. Not that too surprising. People love their waifus. Fire Emblem offers that up, and planning they put them in swimsuits sometimes during the summer. Husbandos and waifus in swimsuits. That's $1 billion investment if I've ever heard one.
Oh yeah, 100%. And doesn't it also have like gacha style mechanics?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's like Nintendo's closest thing to a gacha.
Yeah, so I'm completely unsurprised that it's making the most money out of all of their games. Yeah,
right.
Combine the waifus with gacha and husbandos with gacha mechanics, and you've got a winner. That's what Blizzard did wrong with Diablo Immortal. They made people pay a lot of money, but they didn't put any husbandos or waifus in there.
Yep,
it's just weird looking demon people.
And listen, I know there's Rule 34 of weird looking demon people. Like no disrespect, but they aren't waifus. Let's be real.
No, they're not. Like and like if by now, if you're not looking at games like this and I don't know Genshin Impact and seeing that you need to have waifus in there, then you're making a grave business error.
It sounds like a joke, but you're not wrong. Like it was like Genshin Impact's just like, hey, Breath of the Wild, but with waifus, and that's like what $2 billion now. It's a massive success. So
not kidding at all. People are like really, really like into collecting hot digital characters for some reason,
adding people to their collection, a harem, so to speak. Who knows?
A harem, yeah. Like yeah.
We talked about shitheads earlier, so why don't we get back to that topic? Ron Gilbert will no longer post about Monkey Island due to personal attacks. This is by Andy Robertson at VGC. Ron Gilbert has said he will no longer post about Return to Monkey Island online due to what he called personal attack comments. The developer has received criticism from some fans over the art style change between the classic Monkey Island titles and the upcoming sequel. Criticism he has previously called sad. On Thursday, Gilbert claimed on his personal blog that the negativity was becoming too much for him and that he would be shutting down comments and no longer sharing about the game. At the time of publishing, his website is offline. I'm shutting down comments. People are just being mean and I'm having to delete personal attack comments, he wrote. It's an amazing game, and everyone on the team is very proud of it. Play it or don't play it, but don't ruin it for everyone else. I wasn't posting. I won't be posting anymore about the game. The joy of sharing has been driven from me. This is a
sake, man.
Gamers
deserve the least. Give gamers nothing, okay?
There's so many ways to talk about this stuff in a way that isn't personal attacks, right? Like, we can say, I don't like the way this looks, and that probably should just like end there, because that's the end of the conversation. You can come up to someone and say, hey, I don't like something. Okay, what am I supposed to do about this? Like, okay, you don't like it. We like different things, and that's just fine. Just remember to be kind, as Daniel Tiger once said on PBS. It's very easy just to have that conversation without going to the person, adding them. And this is the real issue here. We're not talking about people on Twitter being like, I don't know about this new Monkey Island thing. Like, I've said that about games before. Yeah. These people are going to his comment section on his website and yelling at him. And it's like the clear distinction there between a way that it's okay to be somewhat negative about something you have questions about, it's called criticism, all that stuff is acceptable. Going to a person and telling them and whining at them to change something that you don't like is, for the most part, it's a weird thing to do. And obviously we have the Sonic situation where we've done this collectively and we've sort of celebrated that. So what are we guilty of this? I don't know. It's tough, Tam. Save me here.
I think that, in my mind, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The people that do this are the least of people. They're the people that have nothing to offer the world. And I know this because, like, I've seen it happen to people, and I can just tell, like, when you are this kind of person, when you have no talent, when you have no drive, when you know you've got nothing to give, the way that you make yourself feel better is trying to tear down other people who have that talent, who have something interesting to give. And in this case, we've got, a bunch of people who are talented. They're trying to make a game. They've got something to say. They've got ideas for art styles. And they're doing it, and there's people out there who are just mad about it. They're mad that they will never be able to put a pen to a piece of paper and make something nice. They're mad that they'll never be able to type anything in and create something that someone else might love. All they can do is tear people down. All they can do is go online and type vitriol into the internet and hope that their impact on the world is bringing negativity to someone else. Because even if you are around, making life worse for other people, and you're that kind of person, what you're seeing is you exist. You can impact the world around you. And for most people, the way they get that feeling is trying to do good, trying to create, trying to bring joy to other people or themselves through the act of creation itself and self-betterment. But for some people, they are just so incapable and so worthless in their kind of like contribution to society that the only thing that they can do is sit and wallow in misery and tear other people down. Those people are the worst of people. There's a lot of them in video games because everyone thinks that they can make a video game. Let me tell you, you cannot make a video game. And there's people who will rock up to reviews. I've seen it happen many times and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And those are the people who are the least engaged with video games. They have the least understanding how video games are designed, what makes a good one, what makes what goes into creating something from scratch like this. All they can do is say, I don't like this, you suck. But they can never, ever, ever contribute to society by creating something like that. The first question should be, have you made a video game? Show me something that you have created yourself. If you're gonna tear me down, show me an image, show me a drawing, show me a article you've written, show me a story you've written, show me a sculpture that you've designed, anything. Show me one creative thing that you've done that you're proud of, and then I will consider whether you have any value in talking to me about how I create something. Because if you can't do it, I don't want to hear anything you've got to say, motherfucker. Get out of here.
And we talked about this when I was first starting this show. There's a lot of evidence out there that people who are very engaged with a hobby are the people that have the best chance of like pulling themselves out of poverty and things like that. But you know who those people are. They're the ones looking at ways to like they want their presence to make their hobby better. And then the people we're talking about specifically are the people who want to just own their hobby and keep it like a little dirty little dragon that's sitting on their pile of dirty gold. And they're like, this is mine. And anyone that tries to come talk to them about it, they're like, well, I know better than you. This is mine. And those are clearly not the people that are going to use having a hobby in this positive, constructive way. And so it's like, just whenever you have a fork in the road, whenever there's a possibility of like, how can I ensure that my presence is going to look at the people? If you want to like succeed in this business, if you want to like, people ask about like, how do you like get a job like doing this stuff? Look at the people who've succeeded. I guarantee when you look at all of them, you could trace their path of like, oh, with their presence, they made the hobby a better place and people wanted to be around them. And that is, if you ever have the choice before you, always go in that direction and things will work out for you. Like that is the key. And it's like the people in Ron Gilbert's comments are clearly practicing the exact opposite, trying to make things worse with their presence. And it's
and the reason why they're like this is because they don't want things to change, because when things change they feel a little more left behind. And the only people who are going to carry on and move forward are people who adapt, and they're willing to think about new perspectives, think about new ideas, to accept new kind of energy within the gaming space. Those are the people who are not only able to move times, those are the people that are continuously excited by games as a medium and ideas. They know that it comes with the risk of some things not being to their tastes, but ultimately they understand that things need to change while to make sure that this continues to be healthy. The people who don't want that to happen are the people who are complaining, I don't like the way this looks now, I don't like what you've done here, I want it to stay how it was. And they don't want it to stay how it was because they believe that the quality is going to better. What they want is instead they just want desperately not to be left behind, and they will be. That's a sad fact.
Also, Bucky Island has had it had a great first original look, and then it went 3D and it looked like trash. And this is looks so much better than any of that. Like these people need to just get over it. Pokemon Go creator Niantic has canceled 4 projects and cut 8% of staff. This is by Jason Schreier at Bloomberg. Gaming company Niantic Inc., which has struggled to find another big hit following its 2016 game Pokemon Go, canceled 4 projects and will cut about 85 to 90 jobs. In an email to staff reviewed by Bloomberg, Niantic Chief Executive Officer John Hanke wrote that the company was facing a time of economic turmoil and has already been reducing costs in a variety of areas. But Hanke said Niantic needs to further streamline our operations in order to best position the company to weather any economic storms that may lie ahead. So let's just real quick, let's stop here, talk about what's happening. This is going to be something you're probably going to hear pretty frequently coming up here in the next few weeks, months. Companies that don't have a clear path to their next big profit jump, their next big point of growth, are going to be looking around and be like, the money train of venture capital investing in us and enabling us to keep going and going is about to come to a crashing end here pretty quick. I say the word crash. I don't know if it's going to have some, these things could have wider detrimental effects on the wider economy, but things like, Uber and Uber Eats and things like that have been subsidized by venture capital, enabling us to get pretty cheap versions of this. That stuff's going to increase in price. It's going to have to go up in price, and they're going to probably cut staff to save costs so they don't have to raise prices too much. And a company like Niantic that doesn't have a product really that it just sells. It's it has to have engagement. It has to have a lot of people playing. And it can't just go out and raise prices on things that people are already buying. It needs to sort of cut costs. A lot of companies are cutting costs. I think Tesla, it was just about to hire a bunch of people, and now they're cutting. They're not going to actually hire those people, and they're already beginning to lay people off. So this stuff's happening fast. It's coming at us pretty quickly, but I think we're going to hear a very similar line of thinking to what Hanke wrote in his letter from a lot of companies. The video game industry is pretty tumultuous anyhow, Tam. So this isn't too surprising, but it's how does this make you feel?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's not surprising. It's a real shame that I feel like Niantic was kind of popping along at a steady clip, and then they had massive success with Pokemon Go. And the kind of sad part of it is once you hit that soaring high, that's kind of the new benchmark for you as a company. And I don't know, it feels like they really struck gold with one game, and now they have to continuously kind of try and find things that hit that same level, which I don't know if that's doable, man. You got real lucky one time, or you put in effort and there was calculated stuff, but it was a perfect storm and Pokemon Go became a massive deal.
Right.
So to see them trying now I wonder if it's a case of them actually trying to search for hits that are on that level, or if they understand that hey, we can have Pokemon Go, but all we need is smaller successes, and if they're not able to meet those successes, the smaller ones, then obviously it's a problem. But maybe this is a case of they need to kind of restructure and refocus so that not everything that they try and make is aimed to be a Pokemon Go. So I don't think that you can do that again, especially with stuff like, you know, the projects that we've seen so far, the Transformers one and the Punch Drunk thing.
Right.
I think that NBA thing that they announced recently could potentially be a major thing, if they play their cards right. Like, even I was looking at that and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like they've got a massive inbuilt audience there with the NBA fans, and it's these kind of games, they're easy enough to pick up and understand, that you could get a decent group of section of the NBA lovers out there, basketball lovers, to play this
I'm not
game.
like, how does that game work? Just real quick, I'm not too like super familiar with like the mechanics.
There's not a lot of details
Okay.
currently. There's little to no details on it, but I imagine it's gonna work similar to something between Pokemon Go and Ingress, where it's
Right.
like take over territory. You know, you're a Chicago Bulls fan or whatever, go to this area, and if enough
Right.
Chicago Bulls fans are there and checked in, they take over or whatever, something like that.
I was hoping to be
imagine,
like you could like point the phone, the AR like phone stuff at the basketball hoop at like a local park, and you just say, I'm on this team, I'm gonna go shoot hoops, and I'm gonna make like 10 in a row, and then someone has to beat me, or like a digital like virtual horse, and like I'm gonna do a shot like this, and someone else has to do it, and if they miss it, like they lose.
I think there's like challenges and stuff that are happening,
fun.
but like I would also love it if I was just walking around and I point my camera up and there's a little Steph Curry there, and I have to like try and throw my basketball at him to capture him, put him on my weird team.
Just a tiny freaky little Steph Curry, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ham Sorrow in chat says Barkley, shut up and jam go, which is a very that's what we should.
I'm down for that.
Here. Okay, let's get to the catch up. That does it for the news, everybody. Let's get to the catch up. So talk about what people have been talking about. I just want to. People are annoyed that Mega Man Battle Network isn't coming to Xbox. It's not exactly the same as the people that were mad that Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't coming to Xbox. Because in that case, Sony is clearly paying to keep it off of Xbox. Here, it's just like, oh, they don't think it's going to sell very well on the system, or at least not in a way that justifies the effort. And they're not wrong. And this goes back to like way before like Game Pass, where people are like, oh. Game Pass is the reason these games don't sell, because people just wait to get them for free. Indie games, even before Game Pass, never really sold that well. And this, like, this is kind of a similar concept, like older games. I know it's not indie, but is there anything Microsoft could do beyond just showing up with the bag and saying, "Here's money to come onto Game Pass," to change this perception among Japanese publishers?
I feel like what Microsoft could do is kind of make a bigger song and dance about the things that they're bringing. Like, they do bring some really interesting things to the Game Pass and to Xbox, but I don't think they make enough a big of a deal about it. And I think that partly comes from it being like timing based. Like, for example, Persona coming to Game Pass, like that was kind of done okay-ish because it was like, you know, it was part of a showcase, but I would have loved to have like them sit down with someone and be like, so Persona, come find, what does this mean, you know, talk to the people at Atlas, talk to the people at you know, Sega, and make a bigger deal about it. I think that could really help Japanese publishers and developers to kind of be a little more open to it, because like what they want is reverence. If I was Microsoft, I would be like, hey, I notice you're putting out these Mega Man games, we would love to do like not a promotion, but like a kind of like an event around Mega Man as a character, and like treat it almost like the old school live arcade days, where it's like, how about we do a week of Mega Man, where for 1 week we'll like, the store will have like Mega Man graphics on it, and we'll release one Mega Man game a day, and we'll have a nice little, the editorial team will put up a little feature about it. You know, we've got a little article about a history of Mega Man.
They should just acquire, like, and not that they need to acquire everyone. Maybe they should just make a team that is very similar to Digital Eclipse inside of Microsoft, that's just like, hey, like, come work with us, and we will show that reverence you're talking about to these games, and we'll handle that side of stuff, and we'll put up videos and behind the scenes content, and make sure that the emulation of these games is perfect, and we'll handle that stuff for you. You just bring the IPs and stuff. That's like, a good idea.
It's so like, I mean, like, Microsoft, if you want us to do it for you, we'll happily do it, because we already do this stuff. Like I would want to be like, hey, we've got a week of Mega Man coming up. Here's the games we're going to be rolling out. On day one, we're going to have a video and written in interview with Inafune, and we're going to talk about, Mega Man, etc., etc. And then we'll talk to X person who worked on Battle Network. We'll talk to X person who designed the Marvel vs. Capcom version of Mega Man and why it's important. We talked to this indie developer who was inspired by Mega Man, and have and I think that would help Japanese publishers be like, oh, they care about our property and they care about our character, and they're doing justice to the lineage of it as much as they care about just having a random game appear from that franchise on Game Pass. I think there needs to be a little more of we care about the thing more than we care about just having a new name on our list of Game Pass titles, and that would soften a lot of Japanese developers to kind of like Game Pass a bit more, I think.
Yeah, right now the Microsoft strategy, and this is the reason I originally talked about the Kojima Cloud game in Xbox like a year ago. It was to point out like Microsoft's big Japanese strategy is like, hey, let's at least go after one big name. Let's do what it takes to show that if this person can come make games for us and be happy, maybe it'll convince others that like working with Microsoft is a really good idea, and that could have knock-on effects in all these other ways. That's a long process. They only just announced the game, and that'll have maybe that alone will have a knock-on effect, but it's probably going to take some time for that game to start being shown, and for Kojima to talk, give Microsoft all the flowers for, they enabled me to do this, and they hired Kim Swift to make sure that making the cloud stuff was just easy and all my ideas could just be realized. He has to go through all that before people really begin feeling that. So there's another angle there, and it's all what you just talked about. Mm-hmm. July's free games with Amazon Prime Gaming have been revealed. They include Far Cry 4, Escape from Monkey Island, Astralogaster, Across the Grooves, Calico, World Rally Championship 8, FIA World Rally Championship, I guess WRC 8 FIA World Rally Championship. And then someone sent me this, and I got really excited for a second because there was a thing inside, whatever. It's a Bethesda image, and it says TESL 6. And I was like, The Elder Scrolls 6. And then I remembered that The Elder Scrolls Legends, the card game, exists. So there's a 6th expansion that's coming soon for that, for people who care. But yeah, there's an image here. I don't know. I'll post it somewhere else, so I'm not going to go to it right now. What I will show you, though, is the first images of the PSVR 2 in the wild. Let's check this out. That's there it is. That's a PSVR 2 just sitting on somebody's chair. So this thing's got to be coming soon, right?
A gamer has farted into that chair.
Oh yes, absolutely,
100%. Like that looks like a chair that a gamer would be getting sweaty on.
Right. And when you throw a chair out, it's like 80% farts. This looks like it's about 60% farts already.
Yeah, yes. Look at that. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. I mean, anyway, there's a PSVR in there as well.
Yes, alongside the farts. Okay, what else? I don't know. I was going to show this Atari thing, but we don't have time. Let's talk about.
Here's the thing. Let me tell you something. I could not care less about Atari in 2022.
Yeah, I tried. I know. I'm trying to get excited. They are working with Digital Eclipse on this Atari 50. Let's show it. There it is. Here's Howard Scott Warshaw, who I mostly remember from bumper ads on G4. So it's a game that I think collects a whole bunch of other Atari games, and it features new games inspired by Atari, 2600. There's Mike Mika. He's sitting here talking about hey, we're gonna go all out, and I love Mike Mika. He knows how to do stuff like this real well. I'm okay, 50th anniversary of Atari, I might be pretty interested. They're not just doing 2600 stuff. They're and here's games from Jaguar, and we're updating those as well. But then they have Ernest Klein in the ad, so then I'm okay, maybe I'll
grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm one of those people who is do we really need this stuff anymore? I'm glad it's going. It's going. People are doing the work, but I'm just oh.
I don't mind. Most people don't care about Atari anymore. You're right.
Yeah. It's just I'm glad that. I take it back. I'm glad that there are people like Mike Mika and people putting in the work to preserve that stuff and do the work. But I'm also it's just I don't care.
Atari's burned so many.
Atari.
I especially my Atari. My invitation to the Atari Hotel, which doesn't exist and will never exist. I just took a picture of it yesterday, so I gotta.
It's just Atari. It's those brands now exist to scam people with an air of legitimacy. I'm just that. Was it the ColecoVision stuff? Is that what it was?
Intellivision.
Oh, yes. That stuff. I'm just go away.
We talked about that yesterday. That they lost the trademark for that. So
good.
It's everything else is just falling apart over there. Okay, so yesterday I asked what grade would you give the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, and most people came in with a B, nearly 50%. 46.1% came in with a B. The next highest was C at 25%, then A at 15%, and then D or lower was 13.8%. So I this bell curve here that I'm looking at seems to like overall reflect how I feel about it. Mostly a B, mostly a pretty strong B for that. For a partner showcase with my expectations set pretty low, I think they did a good job of like overcoming that and delivering a show that was worth my time. At least that's kind of what I ask. Just make it worth my time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just make it worth a while to spend 20 minutes or whatever at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's fine. Yeah, I think B's fine. Like there are parts of it that were kind of like okay, whatever, but like overall, it felt like a good. I mean, like they ended with Persona, which is something that a lot of people wanted for a really long time, which is a kind of it is a win for them at the very least. And the other stuff was still some cool stuff, cool new games, but I think like they're managing expectations around these directs really well now. I think like the fact that they call it the Partner Showcase Mini instead of being like just Nintendo Direct, it is good. It's because no one goes in there being like, "Oh yes, Bayonetta 3, let's go."
Right.
I think that they've got pretty good at trying to manage expectations around that stuff.
Although a lot of people were going Bayonetta 3, let's go. That's made by a partner, and so everyone was sure it was going to be there. And I'm like, I don't think so.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
All right. Tomorrow's question: can working with Kojima change the perception of Xbox among other Japanese developers, not gamers? So do you think like this will have a positive impact on Microsoft's relationship with developers in Japan? Yes or no? I wouldn't be surprised if most people say no here, because it's like, is that really going to be the thing that wins people over? But I think it's like, if it's part of a larger strategy, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll see. I think like if, I mean, like someone like Kojima is well placed in the industry, where if I imagine there's any number of developers that speak to him, here and there across like the different scales, whether they're big or small, and if they speak to him and he's like, "Hey, I worked with Microsoft and they were awesome.
Right?
Like, they let me do everything. Like you said earlier, like they were chill. They were like all good about everything. I would highly recommend them. That's gonna help.
I think so.
At the very least, maybe if not now, maybe in the next generation."
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Oh, there we go.
Wait a second.
Okay, there he is. Hey, Jan, just turn off your camera. But you know what? Actually, we're fine. You don't have to. We're good. We're good. Okay, so Jan's here. All right, Jan. I heard that you had something to say to the Pokemon company or Niantic specifically.
I couldn't find my glasses.
It's okay.
My microphone wasn't working. The Pokemon company Niantic were trying to silence me.
Trying to get you.
All I got to say is that Niantic right now really acting like a master of none, jack of one trade pretty much, and just really banking off the success of the Pokemon IP, when instead of, trying to put all their eggs in all these different baskets, just focus on the one egg, just like it's really hard to poach an egg. There's so many different techniques. All you really got to do, just focus on the one egg. Stop trying to scramble, make an omelet.
Yeah, stop trying to make another meal over to the side while you have an egg right in front of you that requires a lot of attention.
Exactly. You got several regulars that really just like the eggs Benny. Just focus on the eggs Benny.
Sounds good.
That's all I got to say. People like good holidays.
If they want a free idea, Digimon Go.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
I play Pikmin Bloom. Now that I got my Pikmin Bloom, I'm pretty happy, but no one else I don't think plays that. So, and really,
that's the thing. That's the thing. All right.
Yeah. I think no, Jen, you're absolutely right, and I think he's right. Like any other company or any other brand could be thrown in there, and they've shown this. Harry Potter didn't work, Ghostbusters didn't work, and some of those weren't made by Niantic, but whatever. And the problem with Niantic is like they've already explored like the other side of like what they could do here. They get a lot of data from us walking around and stuff. They've been selling that from the very beginning. So it's not like they could be like, well, guess it's time to monetize all this big data we're getting. No, they've been doing that from the beginning. So they're like maxed out on where they can get profits from like already. So they really do need to just cut, and that's what they're ended up doing. But overall, Jan's right. They should just be focusing on Pokemon. That's a game that can last for 20 years, another 20 years. Like they should just be focusing on that.
You can grow in tandem with like the Pokemon company.
Yes.
The last thing I want to say about Niantic is that I will never, ever forgive them for banning and getting rid of Pokemon tracking websites. This used to pop up early Pokemon Go. You could fire up a website. and they would show you a map of your local area and what Pokemon were popping off, and you could head there, find the actual Pokemon you want. They got rid of that functionality because they were like, "Oh, it's gonna make the game bad. It's really gonna lag down the servers. The servers don't even work most of the time."
Yeah, they need to stop like trying to outthink themselves and just give players the things that they ask for. It really is almost that simple. Okay, what's happening on Giant Bomb this for the rest of the week? We just got today and tomorrow, right? So what's happening today? And then I think that Cuphead DLC Quick Look went up this morning. Everyone should check that out. I was playing. Okay, there was a latency. I was playing through the Steam like co-op play with me thing, and Dan was local, so he had the advantage. I had latency. I'm not Dean Takahashi, I swear.
Interesting.
Interesting. Voicemail dump truck's happening today as well, right?
Correct. Yes, it is.
We got a good crew on
those right now.
Ooh, very good. That's excellent. And then tomorrow we got Run to the Hills. Is that still happening tomorrow?
That we're gonna run for the last time.
Ooh, okay. So
one last hill, uphill.
And then Ranking of Tekken Endings Part 2 is gonna be our UPF show this week. Guys, I'm so excited just to sit back and watch that. Like, I think I might let's just go like get a drink and watch these, and while you guys have to rank them. So that's gonna be pretty exciting. Tam, you got anything happening?
No, I think that's everything. I'm going to be checking out the ranking of Tekken endings as well, because there are some wild endings coming up for you, and you've got some fun coming up. Beyond that, I think the latest episode of Jeff's Bizarre Adventure, the One Punch Man side story, is out now. We are going to be recording a new very online show next week, so that'll be back soon. Keep an eye out for that. But I think we're going today. We're going to try, don't hold us to it, to do like a mailbag thing and a couple of other bits. If you're not already following us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram there. I think we want to try and do a live there at some point soon, maybe today even. So you might see us pop up doing a live stream on Instagram through through at the office today. It'll be me, Lucy, and Rory.
Well, that's going to do it for us, everybody. To see the results of the poll, tune back in tomorrow. We'll have a lot more news to talk about tomorrow to wrap up your week. But for Game Mess Mornings, I'm Jeff Grubb. That was Tamoor Hussain, Jan Ochoa. We're going to get out of here. You guys are the best audience in gaming. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.